Are you free more as a kid or as an adult?
Oof. Oof.
I mean,
Go ahead. Answer it.
I'm gonna give both sides of the coin here. You are definitely way more free as a kid in certain terms. Where I mean, especially when you're a little kid, all you do is just have fun. Realistically, like childhood, playing outside, playing basketball, you know, and then school a little bit. Which at the time when you get older, you think it's such a hassle, but you're barely paying for anything. Even in high school, like let's say you have a job. I mean, I'm privileged to have that situation where my money is not actually like my parents could like care less whether I'm working or not because it's not actually contributing towards the bills. But that was my situation. So I mean, I had a little job, and it's just hang out. It's a joyride. Versus when you start adulting, the things you want, they're a little bit further out of reach. They take a lot more effort. So that's kind of both sides of the coin. I mean, because as an adult, you could do whatever you want. You could stay up all night, go out. No, there's no supervision. Just do whatever the hell you want. If you want something, you don't gotta ask someone. If you're a single man, legally single, not just thinking for yourself, then there's freedom in that way. But money talks in this country.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it really does come about money. So I wrote this question thinking, I'm going to talk about taxes. When you're a kid, you are the most free because you don't have to pay taxes. You got to pay for anything. You are literally financially free because you don't pay for anything.
You don't pay any rent.
You don't
pay for food. You know how much you pay for food?
A lot. Actually, a few years ago, I did go through each and every single one of my bank statements because I was curious. I categorized everything I ever spent for the entire year. I spent a lot of money on food. That's like grocery shopping, restaurants, like dates, pizza, like ordering Grubhub, like whatever. I spent a lot of money on food. I kind of put things into perspective. But back to the point at hand, when you're a kid, you have this ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance to the point is freedom. Like if you have no idea what's going on with the debt ceiling in this country, like that's freedom to me. It's no stress. It's easy peasy. But then again, as an adult, I can get in my car and drive somewhere. As an adult, I get to tell people what to do, whether it's at my job or it's my own kids when I have them, knock on wood. Like as a kid, the only tyranny you have is your parents, and as an adult, the tyranny you have is a government. So
government and being and being a slave to a paycheck potentially. But I just went on a 1-week cruise with all you could eat and all you could drink. That is also freedom. So, depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I do miss being a kid, but I also, man, I love being an adult.
I mean, the joy that you experience from the simplest things as a kid.
Yeah.
Having like a balloon fight. You know what I'm saying? Things that just don't, it's just fun. It's just joy. It's like law of diminishing returns. As you get older, you just need a little bit more.
Yeah, you always need more. Well, I tell you, it comes down to money. You're financially free as a kid because you don't understand the concept of money. I just pay taxes. That's terrible. I hated paying taxes. As a kid, you're like, I don't understand what taxes are. I mean, sales tax, when you buy something, a little three-letter word that you don't know what it means. Like, yeah, it's the best. When we were kids, we used to throw acorns at each other. They called them acorn wars. We used to play wiffle ball in the backyard. Like, just none of that. The biggest cause was like, oh, I have a spelling test in 3rd grade. And as you got a little older, it's like, oh, I got to learn to drive a car. It's up to work. But it is a give and take. But if you're a poor kid, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. If you're an adult or whatever.
Even as a poor kid, I can't speak on that, but I can imagine there are those hardships. However, you still have that childlike innocence where playing tag is fun. You know what I mean? Because I think as a kid, you're used to you can't. I mean, you don't have money, so you're used to just depending on other people or comfortable with not having the things that you haven't figured out that you want yet because you haven't, like you said, understood the concept of money and what it can get you.
What's also with consequences, right? When you're a kid, you get punished either by a school, your parents, an older brother, a sister, or it's the most extreme case is you go to juvie, right? Juvenile hall. Whereas in adult, the consequences, man, they lock you up. They
If you want to talk about true freedom, that is a good way to put it.
Yeah, right. Like if you fuck up as a kid, the worst that gets to happen is you go to juvie and then you have a record.
I mean,
you're on a
juvie's
bad path, but there's still redemption.
I mean, juvie's no cakewalk, but it
No,
ain't
no.
federal prison.
It's
It's
federal
not state prison.
Right? They don't put you in solitary confinement in an 8x8x8.5x11. Like
I mean, but it's relative though. It's relative,
Yeah.
For a kid that is a lot.
Of course,
You know?
of course, and it's sort of traumatizing, but it's not like if you screw up as a kid, there's room for improvement and redemption. If you're a felon, good luck getting a job. It's funny, I was actually over here on the way over here. I was like, man, because I was listening to Joey Diaz on a podcast, and he's a former felon. I was like, the only reason he's successful is because he went into art. It's like, well, if you're a felon and you get out of jail, the only career path you can actually do without any like pushback because of your record is art. You can become an actor, you can become a comedian, you can become a musician.
Or you could. It's really
Like
entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
You
entrepreneur.
have to go into it. You have to go and you have to own your own business.
Could you?
And that's
do your
hard. And
job?
that's hard for people who aren't a felon.
Yeah. Could you do your job if you had a criminal record?
No.
I couldn't do my job.
No.
But if I was a kid who went to juvie, I probably could set up my job because there's always room for
I mean, but I
redemption.
love how they like try to like ask you on the application as if like there's hope.
Yeah.
It's like, do you have a felony?
I'm like, no, not that I know.
You know.
As far as I know, there is not a warrant out for my arrest because I'm a free adult.
I mean, yeah, man, it's tough because
Yeah.
it's because it's not apples to apples.
No.
Freedom as a child versus freedom as an adult are two different things, and it depends. See, there's so many different ways to put it. Living by your own rules, that's adult.
Yeah.
That's freedom,
Yeah.
but it comes with all those strings. So is it?
Like, I did love living alone. I do love living with my girlfriend now, but I also did love living. I didn't think I'd like living alone as much as I actually did because I did have the freedom to do whatever I want. I could just sit in on Saturday and play video games all day. I didn't have to pretend to want to watch some movie that Jazz wants to watch on a Saturday night or whatever, right? So like there's plenty of limitations as an adult, and I wonder if it's going to change as I get older when I have kids. It's like, 'cause then once you have kids, freedom what? Who? You freedom? You want freedom? You got kids, man. You don't have no freedom. You got responsibility.
Is it
now.
as you get older, the definition of freedom just changes?
Yeah.
You
as
know,
get
like
older,
because you
probably
got
lose
one
your freedom.
stage of like childhood where it's just like freedom from all the adult bullshit,
Yeah.
and then you got along with that adult bullshit there comes freedom.
Yeah.
But then you have kids. I think you just become less free.
You become less free.
Less free.
But then when you become an old man, right? Like, say you're like an old man and like well, no, because you're gonna be taken care for. Then you have no freedom at all. You're just living by the whims of someone else.
That is the least amount of freedom that you have. Well, no, well,
Well, because
it's
kind of
you kind of just go back to being a child again.
Kind of, but it's that's the point I was gonna
but
make. But think about it,
yeah.
it's a little more restrictive because
You've had those freedoms.
you had the freedoms. But again, I think if you're like 80 years old in assisted living and you have Alzheimer's, you can't drive. Or if you had a stroke, you can't drive. That's literally taking away your freedoms.
Your freedoms go away
Your
because
freedoms,
of
as you get older, I think if you
health,
you lose more
yeah,
and more
with
in your
health.
freedoms.
Yeah, because now you're talking about like mental freedom.
Right, because as you're old, you are strictly relying on other people to take care of you, which means you don't have as much freedom. And you still have to pay taxes. and you're still financially responsible for the most part. Whereas a kid, people try to protect your innocence. They try to protect your freedom. No one's protecting grandpa's freedom.
Now we're oppressors, but in an endearing way. Yeah. We went deep with that one.
I mean, well, it's an interesting thought experiment, right? Are you more free as a kid as an adult? Well, it depends. Depends. I look at it. Legally, an adult, because once you hit 18, you can do certain things. Once you're 21, you can do certain things. So you can define freedom like that by the law. You can define freedom as like financials.
It's like such a society created version of freedom when you're an adult.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I have the freedom to drink. I have the freedom to go to war.
I have the freedom to vote.
To vote, to pay taxes, to do whatever you want.
I mean, there's responsibilities with freedom too, right? There's plenty of responsibilities that come with being free.
Spider-Man.
And yeah, power, responsibility, all that fun stuff.